Hello there all you absolutely magnificent people, and welcome back to another episode of An Ecologist Plays, where we talk about nature while playing games. My name is Will, I'm an ecologist by training, and we are back in Empires of the Undergrowth. As the series is winding down, we are on our second last mission here. Our Formica Ereptors have just defeated the Solifuge, or the Sun Spider, and now we have to get ready for the other two giants that are on their way. Let's see whether our Ereptors can survive in this arid savanna ecosystem. However, a massive chamber has been left in the wake of the sun spider, but it will not go to waste. Within this chamber, the Formica Ereptors are hatching their first little black ants, Monomorium carbonarium. These will in essence act like the workers of the colony, at least the workers that are going outside. The Formica Ereptors have come up with a new strategy. The main soldier caste, the fire ants and the leaf cutters, will kill and dismember the termites, while the Monomorium carbonarium ants, the little black ants, will be carrying the victims away. This will allow the Formica Ereptors to now have a longer sustained fight, potentially allowing them to collect more victims for their nest. The fighting is fierce, many ants are slayed, but so too many termites. The colony will feed well tonight. As the sun rises, the termites have mostly retreated back to the nest. However, the soldiers, which are most likely able to withstand the sun a bit better, are still attacking the Formica Ereptors that are on their doorstep. Undeterred, however, the Formica Ereptors push forward until a sufficient number of termites have been killed, and then they carry back the spoils. One last magnificent raid before the sun prevents the termites from coming out.
Much later.
The termites are stirring once more, and so too the Formica Ereptors will stir. Marching as one, so many different ant species together, it's only really Formica Ereptor that can achieve this phenomenal feat. The first overzealous fire ant has already reached the termite mound, and although it stood alone, she is soon joined by the rest of her colony. Now once more the termites mount a desperate defense, attempting to withstand this onslaught. And although they may seem victorious, this is not a victory for the termites. Instead, it is a victory for the Formica Ereptors that are carrying away so many of the fallen termites. Termites truly are an amazing food source for the Formica Ereptors, or for most ants for that matter. Squishy, and although they are also protected by soldiers, they are very protein and fat rich, a valuable resource, especially in the African savanna. Another sun spider, a smaller one, has been encountered by the Formica Ereptors. It too was no match. It likely was a male, smaller than the large female the colony encountered previously. But this is not the main threat tonight. This beautiful creature is Ethmostigmus trigonopodus, the African Giant Centipede. Centipede, of course, cent referring to 100, pede or pod referring to foot, so the 100 foot. However, they do not have 100 feet. In fact, this one has 44 legs, if I'm not mistaken. So nowhere near 100, not even half 100. So let's look at this beautiful creature and why on earth it is called Ethmostigmus trigonopodus. So ethmos refers to sieve, or like a colander, and stigmus referring to a hole. And if we have a good look right over here, look at that. These holes over here are the spiracles. They're part of the respiratory system of the centipede. This is where gaseous exchange takes place. So these are the spiracles. And you can see there, they are very oddly colored, lighter and darker, kind of looking like a sieve. And that is exactly where they get their name from. All the species in the Ethmostigmus genus will have these weird forked spiracles, which is very, very interesting. And then trigonopodus, trigono referring to triangle and pod referring to foot, because they kind of have these little triangular feet. So yeah, Ethmostigmus trigonopodus, the African giant centipede. Also sometimes called the Tanzanian blue-ringed centipede because, well, you can see some of these specimens at least will have these blue bands on them. But this is not the only color they can come in. They can also be yellowish with blackish stripes, so it's not just green and blue as we see here. Now, centipedes are amazing. They are really crucial predators. They are all predatory, although some centipedes will also eat plant matter if they are starving. But the majority of the time, they are crucial predators. They will be taking out very large animals in some cases, like the scolopendrines, the group to which the scolopendras as well as the Ethmostigmus belong. They will in fact be able to take creatures that are larger than themselves, and that in itself is quite impressive. So how do they dispatch of those larger creatures? Well, right in front here we've got some very nice, well, jaw-like structures, but these are not true jaws. They do have venom in these jaw-like structures, but we call these the forcipules. They are in fact the first set of legs of the centipede, and all centipedes have this. They will have the first set of legs modified to be the forcipules, and there's a venom gland that's located in the head here and a nice tube connecting to the front of the forcipules that will then deliver a venomous bite. They also have these very long antennae, and the eyesight really not that great. They are able to detect light and dark, and that is pretty much it. But they have got these very sensitive antennae, and they will be using that to also pick up scent and pick up vibrations as well. These centipedes also do have a very sensitive organ at the base of the antennae, known as the post-antennal organ, and it is believed that those organs there actually will help them detect vibrations, so it's a very useful organ for them then to have to sense the world around them, especially considering they do not have great eyesight. You'll also see that this first set of legs here, very similar to the first set of legs with the sun spider that we had a look at previously. They aren't really walking with them. They have raised this set of legs above the ground a bit, and they're kind of just also sensing the world around them. So the set of legs, like with the sun spider, has a bit more of a sensory role rather than a locomotive role. Really quite amazing. And then there is another interesting little thing here, or a whole bunch of interesting things actually. But first of all, let's have a look here. If I just raise a little bit higher like this, if we have a good look from above here, centipedes with all those legs don't trip over any of their legs. They don't trip and fall. And the amazing thing is that if you look closely at the legs, each pair of legs would be slightly longer than the pair in front of it. So the shortest legs are the ones right in front, and as you move to the back of the centipede's body, the legs get slightly longer, slightly longer, slightly longer. And as a result, as they are moving their legs, the legs don't actually overlap and they don't trip themselves, even though they are moving all these legs to try and move from point A to point B. They also have the ultimate legs. And when I say ultimate, it doesn't mean like the best of the best. I do mean that these are the last set of legs. These ones right at the back here. All centipedes will have this. They don't look like legs at all. And in fact, they don't act like legs either. Instead of being used for locomotion, instead of being used to move from point A to point B, these ultimate legs will be used for a variety of other purposes. In some cases, they will be using this to grasp other centipedes. So if they encounter another centipede, they will try to grapple that centipede with the ultimate legs. In some cases, it may have reproductive purposes where they actually grab onto partners with that. In other species, they actually raise this to try and intimidate predators. And in even other species, they will use these ultimate legs to hold onto branches and then grab onto prey, especially things like bats. They will catch those bats by hanging upside down, attached to the roof of the cave or a branch hanging over the cave with the ultimate legs, and then grab the bats as they fly past them with their front legs and their forcipules, injecting a nice bit of venom. An interesting little tidbit there, that no centipede on Earth actually will have 100 legs exactly. There are many species with fewer than 100 legs, like the centipede over here, and there are some centipede species with more than 100 limbs, but never 100. And that is because they will always have an odd number of pairs of legs. And if you look at this centipede over here, if you look at the number of pairs of legs they have, this centipede over here has 46 legs. And there will be no centipede with 50 pairs of legs because 50 is an even number. So yeah, they could never have a centipede with 100 legs. Now, of course, our Formica Ereptors going to encounter this centipede. And well, it is going to be a bit of a fight. This centipede is looking for a nice safe spot to hide from predators. They are vulnerable to a variety of predators, birds and mongooses, and even some snakes. There are some highly specialized snakes, like in South Africa, we've got the centipede eater, which is a type of snake, not very big, but they will specialize in taking on centipedes, including, most likely, these types of centipedes as well. And this one, unfortunately, didn't really count on the fact that, well, we have got a whole bunch of ants ready to defend their nest against it. And now those ants are going to war again, as they again set out to go raid the local termites. Again, the termites mount a swift defense of their nest, and again our Formica Ereptors rise to the challenge, with the Formica rufa wood ants spraying formic acid from behind, and the leaf cutter ants and fire ants dismembering the poor unfortunate termites. They really stood no chance. Once more the Formica Ereptors mount an attack against the local termites. This time it's the northern colony that suffers under their attack. Even though very often termitophages or termite feeding ants will really hammer the local termite colonies, they rarely will actually result in the extinction or complete wiping out of those termites, because, well, once those termites disappear, they have no more food. Instead, it is all about sustainable harvesting. Not that the ants will constantly go out and say, okay, ladies, we are allowed to harvest 50 termites, but it is just the way it is. They will switch between colonies, attacking the one, then attacking the next one, then attacking the next one, not over-harvesting any one colony. As the sun rises again, all the nocturnal creatures of the African savanna take refuge under rocks and other shady environments. Earwigs, for example, will not remain outside during the daytime. Now, earwigs are also fascinating creatures. Even though there is the myth that they will crawl into your ear, and that's why they are called earwigs, they won't do that. There's no reason for them to crawl into your ears, least of all to go and lay their eggs or steal some of your ear hairs to build a nest with. They will not do that. But it is more widely believed that the earwigs are actually called earwigs because when they unfurl their wings, it does kind of resemble, if you are 90% blind and squinting, the unfurled wing kind of resembles a human ear. Now, you can't really see the wings here. At the moment, the wings are tucked underneath these hard plates over here. It is protected. When this earwig does want to fly, and yes, they will be able to fly, it can unfurl those wings and then it can take flight. Of course, a characteristic of earwigs would be the cerci or pincers in the back there. They don't have venom in these pincers, so they are of no consequence to us as humans. They won't harm us at all, but they will use this very often to fight with other individuals. Especially males tend to fight with one another by grabbing onto each other with these cerci. And then the victor will have breeding rights and, be able to establish a territory and those types of things. And even though this one is very symmetrical, there are many earwigs with more asymmetrical pincers, so one smaller or more lopsided than the other one, and it may give them some competitive advantage. They have done some tests and they've found that, at least in some species, the earwigs, the males that have more lopsided or asymmetrical pincers, cerci, they have a greater chance of victory against a more symmetrical male. Sometimes there's a benefit to being odd. Just because the sun is out, however, does not mean that the Formica Ereptors are not going to do a raid. They have selected the northeastern colony. Attempting to draw out the termite soldiers and succeeding in doing that, they are standing right outside the nest. And as the big soldiers subdue the termites with their venom, the smaller Monomorium carbonarium ants carry back the spoils of war. Silence again dawns on the savanna as the Formica Ereptors make their way home. Pandinus imperator, the emperor scorpion, armed with a venomous sting at the tip of its tail and very powerful pincers, this scorpion can make short work of the ants. Feeding on a variety of invertebrates, ants definitely would be on the menu of this invertebrate, and as with the solifuge, this too is an arachnid but not a spider. Scorpions, of course, belong to the order Scorpiones, which is quite easy to remember, I think. And as with all other arachnids, they will have 4 pairs of legs, 8 legs in total. And as with the sun spider, It kind of looks like this scorpion has got 10 legs, because if you look there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then look at the pincers, that kind of looks like another set of legs, so maybe this scorpion has got 10 legs, but no. The pincers in the front of the scorpion here are also part of its mouth parts. These are the pedipalps. Like we had with the sun spider previously, these would be the front appendage here, still part of the mouth, not true legs, and then they only have 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs of true legs. Typical arachnid. Now they do have a number of eyes. You'll have the 2 bigger eyes on top here, but right in the front of the scorpion's head here, you can also see 3 more pairs of eyes, for a total of 4 pairs of eyes, or 8 eyes. Of course, the scorpion also has some nice mouth parts in the front there, which it will use to dismember its prey further, while it is sucking up the juices of the prey. But the emperor scorpion, unfortunately threatened to a large extent by the pet trade, by the illegal poaching of these scorpions. Mildly venomous, not dangerous to us as humans, but if you are the size of an ant, and you are in fact an ant, well then this would be a terrifying prospect. Let's see how our Formica Ereptors do in their defense of their nest. Here they go. And immediately stunned by the scorpion there with its pincers, and some of our ants are also distracted by the earwig to the side there. Of course, many of the ants are climbing on top of the scorpion here, a very valuable strategy because it does allow them to sting in between the heavily armored plates of the scorpion, allowing them to attempt to inject their venom, especially with the fire ants with the Solenopsis venom, attempting to inject their venom in between, there where it is vulnerable, in between these heavily armored plates. While the majority of our ants are in fact attacking and biting and stinging, the Formica rufas are also just spraying formic acid, attempting to either blind the scorpion or deter it, try to get it to move away from the nest. But, you know, if we were to succeed in killing it, it would also be a very nice meal for our ants. It is making its way into the nest, and in fact it is now in our nest. This is the last stand of the Formica Ereptors. It is now or never. The soldiers swarming in from outside, again climbing on top of the Emperor Scorpion, biting it, stinging it, the Formica rufa spraying formic acid at it, attempting to kill it. And finally, the Emperor Scorpion is slayed. After surviving the trials and tribulations of the African savanna, Formica Ereptors are ready to set their sights further inland. In the final episode of this playthrough, the Formica Ereptors will come face to face with probably their greatest challenge, the black driver ants. So until next time everybody, stay safe. I'll see you all soon. Cheers!